Thank you for tuning in. I'm Mary Reed Johnson, host of Hair, Head, and Heart on BBS Radio. I'm also a licensed instructor in the state of Minnesota. I teach workshops throughout the country, and at one point in time, I was a natural hair care specialist through the state of New York. I provide services and more and more and more, but it's not about me today, it's about you. We often have workshops for intercultural hair care. And what is intercultural hair care? Basically, that's an exchange of information between people with this texture, that texture, and the next. You might be a pink family with brown babies. I can help you. And you might be a brown family with pink babies. Or if you're like me, I'm African American, and my mother and father were African American, but they did not do hair. They did not understand my texture. So these workshops can help you. Lastly, if you are a hair braider and you want to be a professional hair braider and you want to take some steps to becoming that, this is the type of information that can help you in your career. So let's move forward and we'll talk about our experiences with hair. Why do you think we even have hair? Well, there are many reasons, and one of them is because of protection. Why when we cut our hair, don't you feel anything? Well, part of it is it's an appendage of the skin. And what that means is underneath the hair is pushed out. So that's, the hair grows. And once we can see it, actually, not a good term, but the hair does not feel anything. So it's dead. So that's good for when you're cutting your hair. So we'll learn more about that. That's one of the types of workshops that we have. Hair on your head changes depending on if it's wet or dry. One of the big challenges, if we look at intercultural hair, is that it's one thing when it's dry and another thing when it's wet, and you don't know which one is the best. Well, the answer is neither one of them is best. Both of them are what they are. So when your hair is dry, maybe it feels like yarn, or maybe it feels like thread, or maybe it feels like many other things, sponges, anything like that. But once you wet it, it does more, or it does something more controllable or easier for you to manage. So oftentimes when you're working with hair that's highly textured, then you're going to be using water, you'll be using pomades, you'll be using oils, these types of things. Not because you need to buy all the products in all the land for your hair. That's marketing. We'll talk about that another time in some of the live workshops. Or a question that we often get is, should I put a relaxer in my child's hair so it can be more manageable, so we won't have such hard times in the morning? My general rule of thumb is no. Until they reach puberty, that child's hair will change several times. It changes when they're about 6 months. It changes again when they're about 2 years. It changes dramatically when they're about 6, and then on and on from there. And even throughout your entire life, until the point that you are no longer with us, your hair is changing. So I would say, again, in some of our workshops, we talk about nitrazine testing, which, testing to see how safe a product is, how dramatic of a change it's going to create for your family. So those types of things we talk about in some of the hands-on workshops. But today, let's look at some of our basics for intercultural hair. This is Mary again. So we're going to talk a little bit about Hairapy. Now, Hairapy is my own made-up word, and what it is hair and therapy. It gives you a chance to know something or explore something a little bit further. If you thought you knew and you don't fully understand, this will help you understand a little bit better. Remember, my mission is to help you know better, do better, and be better. First, let's look at porous. Having something porous means you have the opportunity to change something from dry to wet, like a sponge. Some people's hair feels spongy. And so if you take a dry, crunchy sponge and you put it in some water, which I'll just reach over here and mist it a little bit. Instead of it being so dry and strange to the touch, for some people it's strange, some people like dry sponges, but becomes pliable, which means we can bend it and move it and shake it. Same as it happens with food. If you had some pasta, you break it, or you just put it in a pot of boiling water and it gets all loose and goosey, that's what can happen to your hair. Your hair is porous. In Hairapy, we show you how to work with that material, whether it's your hair or you just want to compare some other different textures. Another thing I've got to say, if something is porous, it doesn't matter what color it is. It doesn't matter how long or how short it is. Porous is porous. It absorbs the water. It changes when it's wet. And again, just remember, your hair is porous. This is Mary Reed Johnson talking again about Hairapy. Now there's many parts to Hairapy. Hairapy is hair and therapy. It's my own word. But what we have going are some things about beading. Did you know that these little beads aren't the only type of beads? These plastic pony beads aren't the only types of beads that you can do. You can have something that is a filigree, and that is something that just opens and closes, just very simply opens and closes around the braid. You usually use these as an accent when something is larger than, for example, a pony bead. You see these quite often. And the pony beads, they're very nice for small hair. You don't have to braid hair in order to accent them with beads. There's a variety of methods that you use to apply them. And in Hairapy 2, which beading is easy, we talk about those methods. Hi, this is Mary again. We're talking about Hairapy, which is one of my favorite subjects because it gives us a chance to know something about anything to do with hair. So today we're going to talk a little bit about respecting all textures. There are a variety of definitions that people have for textures. There are a variety of negative connotations, and they are misplaced. So how to deal with texture, whether it's your own texture or someone else's, it's number one to me very important to recognize that you should respect all textures. And that's whether the hair is thin or thick or fuzzy or curly or straight, on and on and on. We have a variety of exercises in our workshops to help you, whether you're a professional or a lay person or someone who has children who are trying to come to grips with understanding why their hair is different than yours. So respecting all textures is very important. This is Mary, and we'll talk to you real soon. This is Mary Reed Johnson, host of Hair, Head, and Heart, but I'm also a licensed cosmetology instructor, industry advocate, former folk artisan for the Minnesota State Arts Board, and more. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I was just a regular kid, raised a fly in buttermilk. There were 300 kids in my high school graduating class. I was the black girl. Needless to say, I didn't have too many people to bounce off of what I should do with my hair. It really wasn't a concern. I just twisted it and braided it to keep it out of my face. My parents, wonderful people, they are also African American, but hair was not one of their concerns. Fast forward some years. I grew up and got the opportunity to own a salon. In that salon, I hired a lady who was from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and they're known for hair braiding. It's an indigenous art, meaning that's how they grow up. That's what they learn. And I was very surprised to note that all of those many styles I had twisted and coiffed and braided when I was a kid, they really had names and they had history. So what I did is I started traveling around the country, learning different techniques, and eventually I became a folk artisan for the Minnesota State Arts Board and traveled and shared more stories with that. I wrote a book about dreadlocks, and to this day, it is still stood the test of time. So with that and many other things, I became the cosmetology instructor and the trainer and the teacher. And what I do is I advocate so people can know better, do better, and be better. Have you ever wondered how internet radio helps you and your business? Internet radio is an active medium for an active society. Internet radio offers uncluttered advertising. Internet radio offers affordable reach and frequency. Listen to us live, on demand, or podcast. The human voice sells. Or visit bbsradio.com We have affordable starter packages for advertising. So just give me a call, 612-405-9480, or go to my website, 3hwellness.org, and you'll find lots of other information like about our workshops, about what's current in the industry. If there's some advocacy work going on, I like to do that as well. Or you can certainly email me, hairheadandheart@gmail.com.